Well, folks, how y'all doing here today? Well, we're doing pretty terrible, actually. I can't lie to you. Beyond the fact that we're wore out, stressed out, a little bit sicky. We're just tired, Just fucking tired. But as long as these tyrants go on, we have to go on. It just ain't no option, son. Any other way. I guess you can just go into slavery. That's your other option, isn't it? Well, anyhow, hard decisions coming up. Real hard decisions coming up. Anyway, in the meanwhile, we got, well, we have my governor issuing 6 pages of the worldwide COVID-19 pandemic and its progression in Washington State continue to threaten the life and health of our people. Of our people? Of our people. Threaten the health of the citizens of the state of Washington. We're not your people. As in your motherfucking property, Jay. Notice he used the royal our there. And there's just pages of this nonsense where it's like, this man thinks he's a fucking dictator. You can tell the whole entire phrasing of this implies that he is your dad to dictate to you. Because he has emergency declaration powers, don't you know? Whoa, hold on a second. Wasn't that a big problem when Adolf Hitler had those? Or Stalin? Or Lenin? Or Mao? Or the Khmer Rouge? These are always a problem when those people have them, but when Jay has it, you can totally trust him. Now, I've been predicting, sorry about all that, guys. This shit on my face is horrendous. It hurts quite a great deal. Stress does this, mostly, amongst other things. But, so allegedly we have a COVID outbreak surge. What the fuck is an outbreak surge? What's the actual increase in deaths? Minimal. Increase in hospitalizations, not very much, over what you would expect for respiratory viruses at this time of year at any rate. Outside here, it is probably 85% humidity and 40 degrees. Of course people are respiratorily sick, you dumb fuck. This is the exact best environment to breed such viri in, you dipshit. Can you imagine? Duh. Then you have, it's so ridiculous to me that they can't figure this out. Or they pretend not to be able to. Now, do you know? But again, this is, to my mind, nothing more than your standard spike in cold viruses, flu viruses, and such at this time of year, which is between, the end of October, beginning of December of every year since the beginning of time. It also coincides with, the lock you down for Thanksgiving. They're already saying they want to take away Christmas. Just like I said, they were going to try to take away Thanksgiving. Everyone said, no, after the election it'll go away. Yeah, COVID's doubling down, baby. Well, I actually have a deal here where Fauci tells you they're going to need to double down. Yeah. Do you want to start with, where do you want to start with it? We got stuff, man. We got stuff we can read you today, guy. Just 1 second. I had the wrong one of these open, but that's okay. Fauci urges American public to double down on COVID-19 safety measures amid surge. Yeah, it's a surge. Remember when the Taliban had a surge and ISIS had a surge? Well, now COVID has surges because we're at war with COVID. Really, we're at war with the virus. So does that mean Fauci's our little emperor? So, Anthony Fauci, the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, called on Americans to double down on health precautions like wearing a mask or face covering, social distancing, i.e. lockdowns, and more as COVID-19 cases continue to spike. Notice cases, not hospitalizations, not deaths, cases. This is a case-demic, not a pandemic, period. Fauci told Good Morning America on Thursday that what we need to do is what we've been talking about for some time now, but really double down on it. There are certain fundamental baseline things you can do. Universal and uniform wearing of masks. universal and uniform wearing a mask. All of you, just like little Saudi Arabian housewives. Because, yeah, if you just give up your individuality, personality, and ability to make choices for yourself, you'll be so much more free. Yeah, this is Soviet brainwashing bullshit. Avoid crowded, congregated situations, meaning stay away from other people. Seems like Soviet brainwashing. And keep physical distancing. Because if there's anything you'd hate, it'd be for anybody to get near to anybody close enough they could talk without the system being able to monitor it electronically. Also, diseases happen to spread when people get near each other. It's funny, they were never worried about dengue fever, diphtheria, Legionnaire's disease, basically tuberculosis, by how rampant it is in these Hispanic populations. And I'm also going to wonder exactly how they're going to keep this, these baseline things going amongst the junkies on the street over here in Seattle. Because if that's the population driving the cases in Seattle, and I do largely believe it is, since they live unhygienically, shoot each other's blood and whatnot, why don't we just gas those motherfuckers and then live free again without their scumbag ass? Isn't it amazing that almost all the places where these numbers rise are cities that have lenient policies on homeless junkies? And that those people are never mentioned in relationship to this pandemic, ever, as like carrier agents? Well, obviously, if bum number one talks to somebody panhandling money, and he's sick and he gets them sick, and they go talk to somebody else, then he goes talks to 50 people a day. Well, wow. Also, too, isn't it funny how they never mention things like how the nurses, these clerks, and the others could be the actual carriers and spreaders, because they see tons of us every day, You see? But no. It's because you didn't wear a mask and because you went to church. See? You can go gamble, and that's okay. And you can go to the bar until 9 o'clock. Well, you could till today. But now going to the bar will kill you. But you could yesterday, and it wouldn't kill you. See? You understand? But if you go to church, it'll definitely kill you. Because there's one thing we know. It's that booze and gambling is good, and church is bad. Right, guys? That's exactly how it is set up in this state, too. Now, even though the weather is in the season of cool weather, I think he's trying to say even though it's winter, try as best as possible to do things outdoors, preferentially over indoors, and wash your hands as frequently as you can. So, what you should do is go stand outside in the rain and the cold, because if anything will ensure you don't get sick, it's going outside in the rain and cold. Can you imagine this? Does this even sound rational to you? I'm having a hard time believing Fauci believes what he's saying here, okay? I'm having a real hard time believing that. Do you understand, guys? Okay? The U.S. surpassed 10 million COVID infections this week. Hold on a second. Again, do y'all remember when I read the thing where they admitted it from the CDC that the number of actual infections can be anywhere from 2 to 20 times higher than what this so-called cases that they have is? Well, let's just say it's 10 times. It's 100 million so far infections. But no. And then, now listen, and reported 142,860 cases on Wednesday alone. Cases. How many hospitalizations? Less than 1,000. How many deaths? Less than 100. You see how this works? Infections across the country began to spike in September. You mean like respiratory viruses usually do at the end of the fucking fall season and beginning of the wet, cool season? And they have continued to rapidly increase. No joke. October and November are the main sickness months? Whoa, dude. You'd know this if you ever looked at the charts from the CDC itself for the 10-year averages. Yeah. Now, asked on Thursday if the recent election is having any type of action as we continue to fight this virus. Asked on Thursday if a bunch of Joe Biden supporters out in the streets, doing the Antifa BLM riot thing that's been happening for 10 months already, had any effect on the spread of the disease. He said, oh, hell no. Only conservatives. Excuse me. Fauci said, Fauci vowed that health officials and researchers are pushing ahead on the development of vaccines and on countermeasures amid the ongoing pandemic. So what he wanted to say is that, yes, Those people hitting the street surely caused this, but let's not do that. Let's just lock everyone down, because obviously locking us all up in our cells like a bunch of bad convicts is the way to deal with the disease. See, diseases can be jailed. You can jail disease, guys. See, especially when the disease happens to be free thinking and individuality, which are no big no-nos. No. Let's see. Fauci added there is no appetite for implementing additional lockdowns for individuals and businesses among the American public. Well, there's no appetite, but your governor's going to spoon feed you anyway. Open up. Cram it down. Cram it down. Well, you know, what do you want me to say? He added that he hopes people can stem the spread of the virus through measures like wearing masks and social distancing. Why? If we're at 80% compliance with these masks, is what they're saying already. How much do we need? 100%? If only when all of us give in to the power of the Fauci can we be saved by belief in the magical power of your magic medicine, Fauci. Because all you've ever done, Dr. Fauci, is waste money of the public dime, you parasite motherfucker. You've never saved anyone's life. Ever. Not one time, dude. So, take that, ego trip and stuff up your ass. Now, you could still get businesses going. You could still get economic forward thinking while you're doing that. You don't necessarily have to shut everything down. No. Only the people that are the competitors to the big guys need to get shut down. Have you ever noticed those guys? It's these small businesses and single proprietary businesses that are getting the whack. Huh? Hey? Over and over and over again, yeah? Now, hopefully we don't have to do that. If we can do the public health measures, we don't have to do that. So if you just don't wear the mask and become compliant, then they won't have to lock you in your cell like a bad convict. Yeah. If we could just hang in there, do the public health measures that we're talking about, we could get this under control, I promise you. What does your promise have to do with anything? And who believes the promise of a man who says things like, are you ready? Fauci says U.S. has independent spirit, but now it's time to do what you're told. Dr. Anthony Fauci, on a vaccine timetable, reached out to anti-vaxxers. White House coronavirus advisor, Dr. Anthony Fauci thinks that Americans have an independent spirit, but there are times when it's in our best interest to just follow the rules. Yeah. It's funny because, these rules have changed all the way through, and they're based on arbitrary, capricious bullshit that has absolutely no valid empirical science behind it at all. Yeah. So, what I'm saying is I'm going to decline your offer to be your fucking slave, Dr. Fauci. You can get fucked up the ass with glass till you die. No. He says he was talking with his colleagues in the UK who are saying that the UK is similar to where we are now because each of our countries have that independent spirit. I can understand that, but now's the time to do what you're told. Give up Thanksgiving, give up Christmas. Don't you argue. You can't go to the store. Wear a mask. Lose your individuality. Don't talk back. Just inject random shit put out by Bill Gates. Don't think for yourself. Don't think for yourself. Consume shit, fuck, sleep. Yeah, screw you. Screw you. It's almost like they think we're circus animals, Fauci noted that scientists have been perceived throughout this pandemic as authoritarian. You don't say. You don't say. Really? Unelected. God knows who people just saying, do this now. You're perceived as authoritarian? I can't fucking reckon why. Because of the steps taken to combat the virus. Well, hold on a second. They haven't combated the virus. If you're losing this bad to it now, your steps were a failure, meaning your authoritarianism was not only tyranny, it was inept tyranny that was ineffective as well and over-costly to boot. Voila, hey? In a divisive society, he said, people's willingness to follow the advice of scientists has often been portrayed as a political decision. Yeah. Meek people submit to lab coats. Strong people punch you in the face and make lab coats do what they want. You understand? Get stuck on an island with me, Fauci. I'll be running shit in 5 minutes. You understand? 5 minutes. God, I don't care. If the choice is die or cave in your head and be ascendant, I'm going to cave in your head. That is, I'm not scared to die. As long as there's a chance I'll be top dog, death doesn't matter to me at all, boy. Can you say the same, little coward? No. That's why you bluster and you hide behind these weasel words of yours. You're a fucking two-faced authoritarian tyrant, Mr. Fauci. You actually think that your worthless list of non-achievements gives you the right to tell us what to do. All you are is a government parasite that's made billions and billions of dollars worth of research made accessible to you through our money, and that which you've made millions of dollars in profit off of that research. Off our money. You're scum. You haven't done anything for our health but sell us shit back at cost, after you've already cost us money just to exist. Okay. Surveys have found that Democrats are more likely than Republicans to view COVID as a major threat to public health. Surveys have also found that Democrats are more likely than Republicans to be cowardly, servile people who will obey any order because they have no spine. All of a sudden, science gets caught in a lot of this divisiveness. Well, yeah, particularly when you're playing follow the science, but the science is utterly made up in arbitrary bullshit that isn't not only not scientific, but in most cases is anti-empirical to boot. Based on belief systems. Oh, holy Fauci, protect us from the crimes of thought. Don't let me think for myself. Fuck you. It sounds simple in the context of this ominous outbreak, but in fact, we can turn it around. Because in his view, get this, herd immunity is not a viable strategy. What? Herd immunity is not a viable strategy. Why? It was a viable strategy for the Black Death, for diphtheria, typhoid fever, cholera, all these other things that have ravaged mankind since the beginning of life. Yet this relatively benign, almost completely fucking harmless virus is now we just can't allow it to run its course. Chickenpox was more deadly than this shit, and we just allowed it to run its course. This is because people 40 years ago actually had spine, and they could accept pain and loss, unlike you weaklings today. But anyhow, if the majority of Americans started following the guidelines, i.e. following in line and not questioning authority, Fauci expressed confidence that we need not shut down the country. So, obey or I'll take away your job. You know, that sounds mighty awful like the Soviets. Instead, he explained the virus could be brought under control if people wore masks, socially distanced, and washed their hands. We've been hearing this bullshit for 250 fucking days. It is bullshit then, it's bullshit now, what the fuck? Okay? Fuck you. So, Fauci spoke alongside Dr. Lucinia Borio, a member of President-elect Joe Biden's coronavirus task force. Oh, I see. So it's fixed all the way around, is it? It was just agreed that we were going to be like, you know, and Fauci's trying to be the nice guy, where these guys are going to be the radicals. What do you want to bet? More than 10 million people in the U.S. have contracted the virus, and more than 242,000 have died, but that's a lie. Of those, are you ready for this? 238,000 or so, last time I looked, had died with pneumonia too. So it's like, did they die of pneumonia or did they die of COVID? Did they already have pneumonia? Were they already disposed of pneumonia and got COVID and then died? Or did COVID ravage their body, give them pneumonia, and then they died? Those are two entirely separate things, you know. Particularly when we're saying a population of which over half are still over 75 years old. If you take from 65 up, it's like 90% of the population of these deaths. And the ones below that are fat, unhealthy people and people who just got unlucky. You see? And really, a lot of those, how do we know? Because there's self-harm, which means suicides, counted as COVID. There's drug overdoses counted in this COVID thing. There are blunt force trauma counted in there. There's all kinds of crazy things, you know. So, but at any rate, there have been more than 1,000 deaths a day for weeks at a time. There's 1,752 deaths every day in the United States. That's the 10-year average from the CDC itself. Remember back in February when I read that to you? 1,752 deaths per day on average in the United States. And so until we're over that actual number, and until we can separate out the ones that died solely of COVID versus other causes, we don't even know that they're not just part of the background noise number of deaths that happen all the time. since the distribution of ages amongst these COVID deaths look exactly like the background noise of deaths, more or less, to my untrained eye. You see? Crazy, I know. Now, many health experts are growing increasingly concerned about the winter months. This is true every year, for every disease, and so they're kind of lying to you. You see what this is? But this week, the country heard some positive news with Pfizer announcing that its vaccine is more than 90% effective. Wow, so, hold on a second. You mean there's a vaccine now? Then why all these lockdowns? Uh-oh, that's right. That's right. You know, Fauci seemed more optimistic given the vaccine news than he had been in the past. He was hopeful that people can see a light at the end of the tunnel. Lyndon B. Baines Johnson. Fuck you, man. Just spit right in your eye, this guy is. And be ready to take the pandemic more seriously. Why? It's going to be the same exact sore throat I had last year in November. The exact same disease. It was livable then. It'll be livable now. It'll wipe you out for about a week and then you get over it. If you're old, you'll die. That's how it is. Why? This is how respiratory viruses have worked since Adam and Eve were tossed out of Eden. They'll work that way to the end of time, and nothing Fauci says or does is going to change. Fuck all of that. All it's designed to do is make you stupid, weak, and docile. Yeah. So, guys, as I say, I mean, I told you I would definitely take care of you. Yep. So, excuse me, guys. Got to open up the next little bit. Aha, here we go. Because let's remember, guys, that we are on basically day 250 of 15 days of flatten the curve. We are now on the, let me think, my governor started doing this, he says, in February. So February, March, April, May, June, 10 months of 1 month of emergency declarational power, where my governor was only going to take emergency power for 30 days. But now he's just been in charge for almost a year. They're talking about lockdowns that last into 2021, into November of 2021. That's a year from now. 1 year from now. They're talking about travel restrictions. They're talking about every kind of possible imposition on your freedom that you could possibly ever imagine. And people are like, oh, they just want you to wear a mask. No, there's a lot more. A lot more, you know. Anthony Fauci declares that Christmas may be canceled because he needs to control what you do. Yeah, this person here tells it to you straight. I got this off one of those, I think red states where I got this one. As I've written for some months, it is very, very obvious that the reaction to the epidemic of Chinese lung AIDS, the COOF, sweeping the nation by public health professionals, Democrats, and panicked and gutless Republicans, has nothing to do with saving lives. Check out the death rates of the most vulnerable citizens in New York, New Jersey, and Michigan if you doubt that. And everything to do with creating a public health exemption to the Constitution, in particular the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, 10th Amendment. Those are the First Amendment is your right to assemble, petition, redress, and speak. Second Amendment is the right to be armed. Fourth Amendment is the right to be secure in your property and things. And the 10th Amendment is that the power is not delegated to the federal government, reserved to the states and the localities and the people, respectively. See how that works? Yeah. They want to create a centralized democracy. That is the Soviet fucking Union. The various rules promulgated have never been shown to be particularly useful in combating the spread of disease. And the people making the rules show daily by their own actions that they don't believe what they're saying. Wearing face masks can't stop the spread of the virus by anything but lung biscuits. If you can breathe out through your mask and have the virus, you are spreading it. People truly concerned about this should invest in a cellophane bag and electrician zip ties and leave the rest of us the fuck alone. That's exactly what they should do. Again, I refuse to be made the steward of the public's health. Your health's your own affair. You die, it's a personal tragedy. I may try to help you, but I'm not going to be compelled to do stupid, ritualistic nonsense that has no efficient proof or evidence behind it to demonstrate that it will help your health in any way, shape, or form. Not going to happen. Fuck that. Now, social distancing applies to churches and Trump rallies, but somehow the virus doesn't affect casinos and people rioting. Crazy, huh? Curfews would indicate that there is science showing that the Wuhan virus is particularly infectious after 9 or 10 a.m. Weird, huh? Otherwise, it would show that this is just a tool for controlling your movement. The virus has been shown to home in on Jewish funerals in New York and New Jersey and Jewish homes in New York. It just hones in on them. You see, the virus knows what you think. But I guess there is always an upside to everything in there. One of the foremost spreaders of panic bomb is none other than the director of National Institute for Allergy and Infectious Diseases. Fauci has been a big fan of increasing bureaucratic control over Americans under the guise of public health for years. During this election year, his behavior has been nothing short of odious, acting effectively as a Democrat flack whenever given the opportunity. And the fact is, Dr. Fauci thinks you're stupid. Okay? A couple of days ago, he said it was time for Americans to stop worrying about their rights and other bullshit. They need to shut up and get in line. That's exactly it, too. Today, he went on his go-to show, Jake Tapper's State of the Union, to give more bad news to America. We probably shouldn't count on celebrating Christmas. Yeah, Christmas is kaput, guys. Sorry, this is the best clip I can find. The pertinent part of the transcript is below. Jake Tapper this morning, Christmas is probably not going to be possible. Damn. You know, the Jews are saying, no Christmas for you Gentiles. But I guarantee that Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and Eid will be utterly okay. Okay? Tapper, now you have already encouraged America to consider canceling any Thanksgiving plans that involve visiting with somebody else or having visitors come. I know a lot of Americans are looking ahead, hoping to make plans for other holidays, such as Christmas. But when do you think Americans will next be able to safely gather together for family events like this? Are you suggesting it probably won't be able to happen until, I don't know, Labor Day 2021 or Thanksgiving 2021, September or November next year? You know, it depends on a number of factors, Jake, says Dr. Fauci. For example, we have vaccines now, which we're going to all liberate us. Remember, there's going to be no more pandemic because of the vaccine until Trump didn't submit to Biden. Then the pandemic was back on. Does everybody remember that? The first one that came out was highly effective. I anticipate that the second one likely will be comparable. You never can tell until you see the data. But would be comparable. That is great. But we have to get people to take the vaccine. So if we get the overwhelming majority of people taking the vaccine, and you have on the one hand an effective vaccine, and on the other hand a high degree of uptake of the vaccine, we can start getting things back to relative normal as we get into the second or third quarter of the year. Yeah, you only got to give up 6 more months of your fucking life, pleb. Only 6 more months of your life. And in fact, actually only 8 more months of your life, because the second quarter of next year, it doesn't count this, count the fourth quarter, last quarter of this year. How do you like that, guys? Oh, no, it gets better, though. No. Where people can start thinking about doing things that were too dangerous just months ago. Just too dangerous. What are you talking about? You mean where people can actually have lives and live their lives freely of your diktats and guidance and control and other mommy fucking dearest bullshit? Yeah, okay. But we have got to put all of those things together, Jake. We can't just wish it to happen. We've got to get the vaccine. It has got to be deployed. And we can't abandon fundamental public health measures. So, even after the vaccine, you're going to still be wearing the mask. That's what they're saying right here. You can approach a degree of normality while still doing some fundamental public health things that synergize with the vaccine to get us back to normal. Oh, I see. Synergize. But I thought we weren't going back to normal according to everybody else. You know, Tapper, so not until the second or third quarter of 2021, though. Christmas is probably not going to be possible. Fauci, yes, I think that if we get most of the country vaccinated in the second and third quarter of the year, and the vaccine continues to prove its efficiency, that is, after they inject you with it, then they're going to see if it's efficient. And people adhere to those fundamental measures, that is, after you get injected with it, and they're seeing if it's efficient, and you're still wearing a mask in your house, locked down, under economic control, it's not going to be a light switch, Jake. It's just not going to be. I think what he just said is, no vaccine or not, you're still going to be a pleb who's going to be under control and told what to do. We're just not going to turn it off and on, going from where we are to completely normal. No. We can't have any of that freedom, you know. Freedom's been denied. COVID said, fuck you. It's going to be a gradual accrual of more normalcy as the weeks and months go by, as we get well into 2021. Oh, so basically, we're giving up 8 or 9 more months of our fucking life to this fucking con job, guys. Strap in for it. The public health communists have already declared that Thanksgiving is too risky. Now they're going after Christmas because it will also serve as a nice backhand to keep those unkempt Christian goobers in their place. Left unsaid is that there is zero guarantee that any vaccine will be safe or effective until it is used on a large population. The scramble for a vaccine, I think, is more properly viewed as a race to see who can get the most federal dollars. That's right, it's just trough feeding, with fear porn added in, with control over you as a cherry on top. Beyond the rust production, we won't know long-term side effects for quite a while. And in fact, they'll give themselves immunity and exemption from lawsuit for those side effects. They've already talked about it. Mitch McConnell's main concern throughout the whole deal with you getting the $1,200, I remember it clear as day, was that there be immunities for companies, that they'd be given legal exemption from, wow, it isn't just employers. You ought to read the little list. I did. It was quite extensive. And these pharmaceutical companies certainly fall under there. Well, beyond the rush production, we won't know long-term side effects for quite a while. Plus, you'll notice that he says not only will you need the vaccine, but you'll still be stuck wearing the dog muzzle and social distancing forever. So why take the vaccine if it's not going to change your status? Oh, that's right, because it's a large-term experiment conducted on you fearful plebs. We are at the point where the cure being imposed upon us is infinitely more costly than the disease itself, where Fauci is proposing a nothing short of a complete reordering of society based on the unreasoning fear of a virus that is not terribly dangerous to healthy people of any age, very much like every other virus, actually. Restaurants can't survive with the social distancing garbage. The impact from from that rolls downhill in all directions. Lots of jobs are eliminated on the service and supply job sides. This is true. The impact on commercial real estate is going to be immense. Schools can't carry on even with the barely adequate job they did before the virus. Having 3 kids in college under the remote system, I can testify how horrendous it is. I haven't, but I can say that this person writing this probably does. And yeah, my sister does the remote learning for her. And it's a joke all the way around. There are reports of thousands of kids in grades kindergarten through 12 simply never logging into class. And again, the thousands of those kids can't. They don't have internet access regular like. So, I mean, this was a stupid thing all the way around, Right? One academic year has already been stolen, and another is in the process of being stolen from these kids. Deaths from missed procedures, suicide, drug abuse, alcoholism, all brought on by idiot Wuhan virus regulations, are skyrocketing and being lumped in with Wu flu deaths so that they are counted as part of the Wu flu deaths. That's ironically, that's just evil. The only idea Fauci and his fluffers have is more of a failed policy because they don't care about the virus. They only care about bringing you, the American people, to heal. I mean, if we put up with this shit, if we pay attention to this nonsense, we have forfeited any right to call ourselves a free people. And frankly, we deserve to be slaves. And that was from Red State. And yeah, largely, those were their words, but I agree with it. Yeah, absolutely. And so we understand, before we all with this, Biden's going to lock us down. It was the will of the electorate. I don't give a fuck. If you 2 sheep voted, I'm a wolf. I'll chew out your throat. Screw you. Don't care about holy democracy. Sacred vote denied. Okay? Because when the people vote wrong, the Garuzia sets aside. Yeah. That's from Sparta, son. Now, here's a little piece from Friar Tuck, which I have to like. Yes, dead people voted in this election. Dead people voted. This is a bit old, but it's been more than a week since the final votes were cast, and many of Donald Trump's 72 million voters still believe this election was fundamentally unfair. Yeah, that's saying it nicely. They're right about that. Democrats completely changed the way we voted in this election. Our system has never been more disorganized, and it's never been more vulnerable to manipulation. Now, this guy has some courage saying this on TV, fighting back against the stupid lockdowns, the stupid regulations, and this outright criminalness in this election. I mean, Dobbs, too. Think what you like about old Boomer Lou or whatever. He found some balls when he started asking questions about why this, why that, why aren't people being charged, why aren't you doing this? I mean, I was impressed him the other day. You take what you can. In a fight like this, you take what you can. So was there voter fraud last week? We've been working on that question ever since election night. We've tried to be careful and precise as we report this out. In moments like this, truth matters more than ever. False allegations of fraud can cause as much damage as the fraud itself, and the last thing America needs right now is more damage. There is that. What we're about to tell you is accurate. It's not a theory, it happened, and we can prove it. Other news organizations can prove it too. They've simply chosen not to. The position of corporate media across the country this week has been very simple. There was no voter fraud. They say it again and again, but what exactly are they talking about? They won't tell you. So we're going to tell you right now. Fewer than 15,000 votes separate Donald Trump from Joe Biden in the state of Georgia. It's close enough that it's worth getting specific about what happened there. Georgia's Secretary of State has now confirmed that there will be a hand recount of all votes cast. Among those votes, auditors will find a ballot cast by a woman called Deborah Jean Christensen. It'd be hard to find anyone who's had a bad word to say about Deborah Jean Christensen. She was well known in her community for years as a bird watcher, an avid gardener, and a committed fan of the Georgia Bulldogs. Those who knew her were sad when she died last May, and they might be surprised that even after her death, Deborah Jean Christensen still managed to register a vote and then cast a ballot, presumably for Joe Biden. Yeah. In some ways, it is an inspiring story, the triumph of voting over death. And no one quite embodies that story like James Blalock of Covington, Georgia. Mr. B was a mailman for 33 years until he passed away in 2006. 14 years later, according to state records, he was still mailing things. Mr. B cast a ballot in last week's election. How'd he do that? Maybe he was just one of those extraordinary mail carriers. Neither rain, nor snow, nor gloom of night, nor even death itself could keep him from the mail. Then there's Linda Kessler of Nicholson, Georgia. Linda Kessler died in 2003. 17 years later, she was still voting in presidential elections. And it just goes on. There's a whole bunch of these guys. As of right now, there aren't enough of these votes to alter the outcome. But the point is this, they are dead and they voted anyway. The question is, how did they do that? How exactly did they cast any of their ballots? And the short answer is by mail. Dead people, like any other group, tend to vote more when you make it easier for them to vote. And this year we made it much easier for the dead to vote. States sent ballots and registered forms to millions of people totally unsolicited. The pretext was COVID-19 and a public health emergency. The effect was to encourage fraud. Fraud, Faucci, fraud. Oh, and don't worry. One 2012 study by Pew found that there were close to 2 million dead people still on voter rolls around this country. About half the number of people that got those checks, recall. The study also found that approximately double the number of people, 1 million people got the checks. So, you had a 50-50 chance if you were dead of getting $1,200. The study also found that approximately 24 million voter registrations, that is, 1 out of every 8 in America, were either no longer valid or they were significantly incorrect. Close to 3 million people in America had registrations in more than one state. So what happens if you start sending ballots and registrations to lists like this? You're guaranteed to increase the amount of fraudulent voting, and that's exactly what Democrats did. Republicans, we should add, let them do it. Good for you, Tucker, for pointing that out. Take the state of Nevada, where Joe Biden is currently leading Donald Trump by fewer than 40,000 votes this year. State Democrats and their lawyers were certain that Nevada sent ballots, not ballot applications, but actual ballots, to every single registered voter in the state where they registered, whether they requested those ballots or not. They did this even though they were perfectly aware that more than 41,000 people who were registered to vote in Nevada haven't voted or updated their registrations in more than 10 years. Many of these people are dead or gone, but they got ballots anyway. One of these people was a former elementary school teacher called Rosemary Hartley. She was a loving, sassy, fun, and sarcastic person until 2017 when she sadly passed away. Even though she's gone, her voter registration remains. She's still on the rolls. Someone received Sandra Rosemary Hartley's ballot in the mail and then cast it. We don't know who did this. We wish we did because it's fraud, it's a threat to our system, and it's being hidden by the news media, totally vested in a Joe Biden presidency. We have a right to know. We have an obligation to know much more about this. But thanks to the media blackout, it has left to independent conservative sites like The Federalist to report what the rest should be reporting but are not. Thanks to The Federalist, we know that on October 9th, a man named Fred Stokes Jr. received an unsolicited ballot in Clark County, Nevada. 3 weeks later, the county received his ballot back by mail. Voting records indicate that the ballot was completed. Fred Stokes voted for president, but Fred Stokes had been dead for 3 years. He died at the age of 90 in 2017. In Pennsylvania, there are a lot of dead voters. How do we know that? Because the state told us. According to a report last December from the Commonwealth's Department of the Auditors General, nearly 3,000 potentially deceased voters remained on the voter rolls. The Trump campaign says that it has found evidence that some of them voted this year. How did this happen? How can we prevent this from happening again? Those are the questions, obviously, right? The first is very simple to answer. Democrats did it. They understood that when they sent mail-in ballots to an entire unverified voter roll. And you can't really know who's voting. But just to make certain that fraud remained likely, Democrats filed lawsuits in Nevada to eliminate signature verification. Yeah. The Vote by Mail Act demands that every state mail ballots to their entire unverified voter list. Whether you ask for it or not, whether you're alive or not, you get a ballot. There's no other way to interpret this except as Democrats abetting fraud. This summer, Democrats in the House of Representatives passed something they called the HEROES Act. It wouldn't simply have mailed absentee ballots to all voters in America. It would also have prevented states from restricting ballot harvesting in any way. That means that anyone could collect and return bundles of ballots from dead or living voters to polling stations, and there would be no oversight of this at all. That's insane, but expect more of it. Loose voting rules are too useful for the left to pass up. In January, Democrats could very well gain control of the United States Senate. If that happens, much will change. But one of the things that will happen is that they will pass the HEROES Act into law. Right now, they claim universal mail-in balloting is necessary because of coronavirus, but they're lying. They've been pushing this for this very thing for years for one reason. It gives them an advantage because it increases the incident of fraud. And yes, they were pushing for it before coronavirus. Election officials gather in D.C. like witches. I reported on an NPR article on just this thing. And that Krebs guy from that article was on the media last night saying that surely the election must be valid and sound. The exact thing that he said he would say in the event of any type of election shenanigans in the article that I read you. Tucker hit it right there. Now, if we care about our republic, we must demand clean and honest voting regardless of the outcome. The system is what we must protect. Well, I guess then you can't have Democrats in your government because Oregon Democrat Governor Kate Brown orders new onerous lockdown, one that will be enforced by police. Clinging to delusions of serving in a fantasy Biden administration, Oregon Governor Kate Brown has announced a new round of COVID lockdowns that are even more onerous than the ones she'd put in place earlier in the year. Brown vows that this time the police will enforce her edicts. The Willamette Week reports. Governor Kate Brown announced, she's imposing a 2-week freeze on a freeze. You just stop right there, freeze. Notice the same word that's used on TV when you're under arrest. Arrete, Alton. On many activities in Georgia and Oregon because of the sharp increase in Wu flu infections. So grandma got sick, so you got to lock down in your cell, inmate. You understand? Because here on Animal Farm, some animals is more equal than others. The new restrictions, which go into effect November 18th, include restricting bars and restaurants to takeout only again, limiting in-home gatherings to 6 people from no more than 2 families, because, that viruses don't know If it was 3 families, the virus would kill you. And if it's only 1, it can't be more than 6. If it's 2 families, it can only be 3 from each one, 5 from one, 1 from the other. Does it matter how the split goes? Maybe it makes a difference. Prime numbers might be what the virus is all about, Capping grocery and retail stores to 75% of capacity and limiting attendance at churches to more than 25 people indoors or 50 outside. Why is it that Antifa can gather in 10,000s of peoples of groups outside, Miss Brown? And you don't seem to have any fucking problem with that. I mean, they were burning Portland again last night, bitch. Portland's literally been on more or less rolling dumpster fire for 250 some odd days now, guys. To the point where it's become regularized that if I report on it, you just think, oh, he's reading from yesterday, You just understand? Wow. That's a major city on the West Coast. That's just a flaming dumpster fire because of this dumb bitch and her policies and restrictions and whatnots and edicts. So, the restriction on social events in private homes will be in effect on Thanksgiving Day. So what they're trying to say is, Thanksgiving dinner? Nope, Kate Brown done said no. For counties that have seen a particularly large increase in COVID-19 case, the freeze would last at least 4 weeks. One of those counties is Multnomah. Where Portland is, where they've been trying to burn down that federal building for months. Because, obviously, locking down the regular people is the sane reaction to a bunch of people rioting in the streets who are the obvious people spreading the disease amongst themselves. The same junkie, homeless, trash that Antifa is almost everywhere. That's who they use as their foot soldiers, right there. But no. Let's not look at that rationally. You just better go sell up, inmate. Brown has also said that she has directed the Oregon State Police to begin coordinating with local law enforcement agencies to police the restrictions on in-home gatherings. Brown has said that she's told the Oregon State Police to coordinate with sheriffs and city police to spy on citizens and ensure that they don't gather against her edicts. The last time anyone did this in the Western world that I know of was when the Romans tried to outlaw the fucking Christians, Or when the Protestants tried to stop Catholics in England from meeting. Do you understand? Well, it didn't work then, motherfucker. It ain't going to work now. Okay? Brown noted that households that violate the 6-person limit will be committing a misdemeanor and could be subject to citation or arrest. So meeting with people for dinner against the governor's order is now a misdemeanor. The governor can determine who you can eat with, when, how. That's what she's saying that she can do. She's saying she has the police power to do this. Not me, her. I just read it to you. Brown said today she will be directing the Oregon State Police to begin coordinating with local law enforcement agencies to police the restrictions on in-home gatherings. Brown noted that the households that violate the 6-person limit will be committing a misdemeanor and could be subject to citation or arrest. We have not chosen to enforce the law in the past. Unfortunately, now we have no other option. Oh, I see. So, they chose not to enforce the law on Antifa while they were burning down the streets and on people that were celebrating Joe Biden's victory. But now they have no option but to enforce it on you. The person who's probably a hardworking, honest, decent person who they mean to fuck around like a pleb. Because they know you'll take it. Brown also wants Oregonians to continue wearing masks when outside their homes and work from home as much as possible. Yeah, so basically, they're saying, just stay home and die. Of course, we can expect the new decrees to not apply to protests where the rioters routinely destroy the city. Should be sicking the police on small business owners, on regular people. Remember when she took down that hairstyle lady? Who, again? The hairstyle lady is probably some raving leftist with the tattoos and the crazy hairstyle. Fine. But if you want to go get your hair cut from the broad, I don't think Kate Brown or anyone else should say no if you two agree that it's okay. If you assess the dangers to yourself and say, I will take these, c'est la vie. Go free. Be a man. So, since she announced a 2-week pause 1 week ago, we are seeing an alarming spike in both cases and hospitalizations. You're seeing a spike in hospitalizations of respiratory diseases in October and November in the Pacific Northwest? No way! Are you kidding? How fucking mindless you have to be to not know this is seasonal sickness. It is hitting heavy this year because look at the damn weather. It's been like this for days off and on, guys. You know? I mean, it looks like something out in the Aleutian Islands outside, for Christ's sakes. Just gray and wet and rainy and soggy. You know? Perfect sickness weather. No. The virus is spreading in the community, and every day it's infecting more and more Oregonians. The cold virus, the chicken pox, what? You know, tuberculosis, AIDS. What about pneumonia, heart attacks, strokes, renal failure, and the rest of these, you know, kind of things? You know, spinal meningitis, all these. Why have these just magically vanished? Could it be that a lot of these COVID deaths are actually those other diseases, and they're blaming it on COVID because the tests, first off, provide a lot of false positives. But since you can just say, well, they had a cough and a fever, so they obviously had COVID, they could have died of any other form of infection, and without an autopsy, how would anyone ever know? Right, Kate? Yeah. The situation is dangerous, and our hospitals have been sounding the alarms. What? You see all this bombastic bullshit? Like, what is the COVID coming to hit the ramparts like the orcs at Helm's Deep? This is nonsense, fellows. If we want to give Oregon a fighting chance, we must take further measures to flatten the curve and save lives. 250 days of 15 days to flatten the curve, bro. Because as long as one person's dying from COVID, you all got the lockdown, convict. I know this is hard, and we are weary. It's really hard. You know, Kate Brown lives in the same category of people as Fauci and my governor, who, you know, earn between about, you know, 150 and 350K a year and have a net worth of around between 5 and 10 to 20 million. They have no fucking idea what it's like to be anywhere near hard and have no fucking concern for you people down in your trailer parks, your little studio apartments, and your shitty ass fucking subsidized housing. They don't give a fuck about you. Okay? They just don't care about you. No. But we're going to try to stop this ferocious virus from quickly spreading far and wide. You mean they're going to try to purposely inhibit herd immunity so that it reinfects vulnerable people more and more and more and more and more and more? So that they can continually have a reason to lock all of us down no matter what the rest of us do? Okay, check. And in Oregon, we can actually do this. No, you can't. You can't actually do any of the things you're claiming. You're insane. You're a megalomaniacal, power-freaking bitch who has absolutely no control over life or death as you presume to pretend that you do. None. Christ gives and takes life, not you, Kate. Christ. Given the data and modeling we are seeing, remember that modeling, by the way, the stuff from that college that turned out to be completely inaccurate, or the University of Washington that had to revise its figures, was it 6 times, to make it something like compatible with the actual real-world results? Because, as I recall, the model said that there were going to be 4 million deaths, 10 million deaths. You remember that? In America. It was going to be catastrophic worldwide. 180 million deaths. Ah! Everybody, remember those models? Yeah. My public health experts tell me that some counties will need longer to flatten the curve. So I want to be very clear that there are some COVID hotspot counties that will likely need to stay in the freeze for much longer than 2 weeks. Yeah, Multnomah County, for example, will be in this freeze for at least 4 weeks. Yeah, our actions right now, no matter where in the state you live, are crucial. The 2-week freeze measures include limiting social gatherings to no more than 6 people, indoors and outdoors. You just get to only 6 people. Yep, people total, and from no more than 2 households. Meaning, Antifa's going to be allowed to riot, but regular conservative people in Portland, if you object to any of this, they're going to come down and arrest your ass. Limiting faith-based organizations to a maximum of 25 people indoors and 50 people outdoors. Won't apply to Antifa or Islam. Limiting eating and drinking establishments to takeout and delivery only, meaning bankrupting people. Closing gyms and fitness organizations, meaning making people weak and more likely to get sick, not less likely. I mean, wouldn't you think working out and taking vitamins would be good for your health? Having the sort of positive, reinforcement of, I can get out of the house and do these push-ups. Isn't that good for a person? Yes, it is, actually. That's why they want you indoor, afraid, and fucking confined. closing indoor recreational facilities, museums, indoor entertainment activities, and indoor pools and sports courts. Meaning, any type of fun you could have had, gone. Because Kate says no. Limiting grocery stores and pharmacies to a maximum of 75% capacity and encouraging curbside pickup. Limiting retail stores and retail malls to a maximum of 75% capacity and encouraging curbside pickup. Closing venues that host and facilitate indoor and outdoor events. Requiring all businesses to mandate work from home to the greatest extent possible and closing offices to the public. So, that was put in place so that all the state offices could just be denied to the public, and then the state officials who are necessary can run roughshod over us without any ability of us to protest. Yeah, right, okay, baby. Prohibiting indoor visiting in long-term health care facilities. But outdoor visiting will be permitted for quality of life preservation. So having old folks stand out in this shit here is going to ensure quality in their life and keep them not sick. But having people go inside dry and warm will get them sick? Oh, okay, Kate, you're a stupid bitch. So basically, Grandma and Grandpa are being held hostage from you. And what happens if long-term care facilities, if people decide they want to leave them? Can they? Are they allowed to? This question never seems to get addressed, but is it? I don't know. Do you know? The 2-week freeze does not apply to or change current health and safety protocols for personnel services, such as barbershops, hair salons, and non-medical massage therapy. I mean, you can still get your Asian massage, bro. So you're obviously free. You can get your Asian hand job, bro. Congregate homeless sheltering. So homeless people can still be in big rooms together. That's not going to be any disease vector, right? Outdoor recreation and sports, youth programs, childcare. Oh, I see. So nobody can meet indoors, but if your kids are indoors with other kids, that's fine. You see, this they know this isn't the Black Death. At any rate, everything, all of the K through 12 schools, K through 12 sports currently allowed, which is none. Current Division I and professional athletic exemptions and higher education, all of which can continue operating under previous guidance issued by the Oregon Health Authority. For all other permitted activities listed above, the Oregon Health Authority will be issuing sector-specific guidance within the next week. Sectors without specific prohibitions or guidance must operate under this general employer guidance. Yeah. So, what do you think about all that, guys? No. Meanwhile, Pelosi to host large dinner for new House members and Democrats urge Americans to stay home and not host family gatherings due to coronaviruses. This is from the 13th of November. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi is hosting a large dinner at the Capitol building for new members Friday night, a move seen as hypocritical as Americans are being warned by government officials and House Democrats to stay home and not hold family gatherings over the holidays because of concerns about spreading the coronavirus. The Republicans are holding their own dinner for new members, but the GOP has generally been the party that urges caution but respects the rights of Americans to decide for themselves on dealing with the virus in social situations. Pelosi dinner has been modified with a to-go option. Oh, okay. So she got called out, and so she decided to try to, kind of like when she got caught at the hair salon, you know. NBC News reporter Leah Ann Caldwell posted a photo of the setup for the dinner to accompany her reporting on comments by Pelosi. House Dem and GOP leaders are holding respective dinners for new members. Speaker Pelosi told me it's safe. It's very safe, she said, and there is enhanced ventilation, and the Capitol physician signed off. Well, you see, don't you see? They are special. Some animals are more special, and they obviously can meet, because if they can't meet, how could they possibly tyrannize you? Well, incredibly, even as their large dinner was being set up in the Capitol, House Democrats sent out this message urging This message urging Americans to stay home. We are in this together. Protect yourself and loved ones. Continue to stay at home, practice social distancing, and wear masks. So, CNN Republican commentator Doug Hay. Every time I've agreed with Democrats criticizing Trump and other Republicans for irresponsible action and rhetoric around COVID, I didn't think Nancy Pelosi would hold a potential super spreader dinner in the Capitol. I don't know. I mean, yeah. But what is this? Now, see, they're trying to play this super spreader back. It's like the Republicans validate this super spreader bullshit. The fact is not the super spreader crap, because there's no COVID to worry about. It's the fucking hypocrisy where you can't meet with your loved ones, but these bastards are going to meet on your dime at the Capitol. You understand? That's the issue, the real actual issue. Not some COVID bullshit or super spreader nonsense. That's gibberish and distraction. The fact is she's a hypocritical, two-faced, power-tripping bitch. And that's it. Goddamn Herod and tyrant. Herod and tyrant. Now, what? Listen to this genius-level statement from Kathleen Decker. This and similar events like Governor Newsom's French laundry list, the $800 sampler plate, feed a do, as I say, not as I do dynamic, that can only breed resentment. C, let them eat cake. For more on that. This and similar events, okay, hold on a second, let's see. Even the media were like, cancel your dinner, you maniacs, my God, and it's like, I mean, even Chris Hayes Chris Hayes gets it that, right? That you can't be this openly in the face. This is how clueless Pelosi and the people on Capitol Hill are. They think they're this high on the hog, that they're so far above you that it doesn't matter. They can just act like French nobility and tell you, eat fucking cake. Now, in addition to being a really bad idea, this is also horrible optics and totally unnecessary. So, Pelosi's telling you, stay at home, lock down, be alone, to the point where psychiatrists spend so much time trying to get people just where they can not be wigged out seeing other people without a mask. And there's Pelosi doing just la-di-da. It's almost as if she doesn't actually believe there's any kind of disease at all, and she's just fear-porning that off on you, hey? Meanwhile, the mayor of Pelosi's home district, San Francisco, urged residents to make hard choices. COVID fatigue is real. We all feel it. Mayor, stuff it up your ass. You're part of the cushy class of faggots that have never suffered a goddamn second in this past 250 days. You two-faced hypocrite son of a bitch. Okay? But we can't get complacent. We are seeing COVID spread across the country, and the rate of new cases in San Francisco is increasing. Really? You mean homeless people shooting up heroin get sick more often? Maybe you should clean up that poo and those districts of your fucking downtown that look like the third world goddamn garbage heap. Then we can talk about COVID, son of a bitch. The hard choices we make now will help make things better for us in the future. Better for who? Better for the plebs that are going to be out of a job and made completely desolate to at best live on some kind of UBI in perpetual poverty forever? Fuck you. Now, Pelosi's spokeswoman posted an update. Our office strictly follows the guidance of the Office of Attending Physician, including for this dinner. To be a further model to the nation, this event has been modified to allow members-elect to pick up their meals to go in a socially distanced manner. Oh, so they're still going to eat their very expensive food on your dime and fuck you anyway, huh? Why are we paying for the richest people in the world to give me food on our dime? Why don't they pay for that out of their fucking salaries? Just saying. It ain't like they can't afford to buy their own food. Yeah, no. So, guys. As remember, guys, all animals are equal, but not all animals are quite the same equal now. Democrat Governor Gavin Newsom was forced to issue a statement after he got caught breaking his own authoritarian COVID order. The San Francisco Chronicler reported that Gavin Newsom and his wife attended a birthday party with at least a dozen people from several different households for his advisor Jason Kinney last week. Newsom's recent order, just in time for Thanksgiving and Christmas, prohibits gatherings that include more than 3 households. Gatherings must be held outdoors and should not last longer than 2 hours. They even tell you how long you can see people for now. So what the fuck? Is there any science behind any of that? There's no science that says if you're together for 2 hours with 6 people, you get COVID rather than being together with 6 people for an hour and a half. Bullshit. Bullshit. No science at all. Gatherings must be, but Newsom's order only applies to rubes. Newsom issued a statement after he got caught. We should have modeled better behavior. While our family followed the restaurant's health protocols and took safety precautions, we should have modeled better behavior and not joined the dinner. Oh, I see. Newsom told Californians they must wear their masks in between bites of food. Did Newsom put his face mask on every time he took a bite of food at his advisor's birthday party? I think not. California governor breaks his own rules, man. Now, you know, right? And you say to yourself, who are these people? If they're willing to break these lockdown rules that they're promulgating, wouldn't that be proof positive that they know that the rules are ineffective to stop COVID, and what they really want to stop is you from politically opposing them, so that them and their economic masters can have rule over you? Inslee asked Washington to stay home for the holidays. In Thursday's address, the governor and his wife asked residents to stay home this winter and hinted at possible restrictions to come, which were put down today, by the way. In a rare televised address Thursday night, Governor Jay Inslee and his wife, Trudy, addressed the state from their cushy, comfy mansion and said, "We're so sorry, plebs, but go back to your trailer parks and your studio apartments and your little, small homes, with 90 of you have to pack in there to pay the rent, and just stay there forever." How about no? It says, pleading for families to stay home this holiday season in the hopes it will help tamp down on the recent exponential explosion of new coronavirus infections in Washington. Cases aren't infections. In fact, having a case doesn't prove anybody has anything. Not a sickness, a sore throat, a sniffle, a flu, and nothing. Okay? So take that voodoo and get the fuck off my cloud with it. We'd like to talk tonight about what's being called the third wave of COVID-19. And don't worry, by next year we'll be talking about the 18th wave and the 25th wave. And these people will never give up power if they don't have to. You understand? And how we can protect our families. Our families? And we? Are you in my pocket, Jay? Where were you when I have seizures? Where were you anytime I've ever been sick? Where were you last year this time, about this exact day when I had this terrible sore throat and was like, wanting to die? Well, that's right. You was living in your mansion, not giving a fuck about me. Simply put, we have to rethink these holidays so we may be thankful when we don't lose more lives to COVID. Hold on a second. Whoa. How do you know that you won't lose more lives to COVID if we give up these holidays? In fact, haven't people just been dying steadily to it, so you say, no matter what the fuck we do? Yeah. And in fact, aren't these spikes in respiratory virus deaths exactly like every other year at this time of the year's spike in respiratory? Yeah. So how will us giving up anything change that natural normal cycle of respiratory virus deaths? Huh, Jay? You lying son of a bitch. Inslee was joined by his wife, Trudy, in calling for families to stay home and not to gather with people from outside their households. Don't want to be able to talk to anybody without electronic monitoring. Better use the phone. Yeah. Trudy lamented that the Inslee family would dearly miss their holiday traditions. She just missed this. She totally missed her holiday traditions. Of course, they're not going to actually give them up. They're just going to expect that you give up yours. See? Yeah, but that it is more important for everybody to do everything within their power to prevent further COVID-19 transmissions. At what point do we all wind up in a little bubble, separated from everyone else? That's the illogical end of this fucking insanity. We're all fatigued, and it's okay to not feel okay right now, Trudy said. But what happens next in our state depends on what happens in our families and in our homes. Yeah. That's why we implore you to rethink spending time with people from outside your household on Thanksgiving and the December holidays. The December holidays. They can't even say Christmas, these cuctards. They're enemies of Christ, these people. The address did not include new restrictions on businesses or activities allowed during the pandemic, as some had feared, but the governor did hint that restrictions were being considered and may be updated in the next coming days. They came down today. In the next few days, it will be announced. We will be announcing some further measures to prevent this from spreading. Yeah, there was just an indication. In the next few days, we're going to. These decisions will affect what we do outside the home, but what's most urgent right now is what we do in our own dwellings. Oh, Jay's claiming the right to claim your inner house is his place to dictate. That's what he's saying. Unlike a traditional news conference, the press was not allowed to ask follow-up questions of the governor or the first lady. Yeah, so it was just a little dick too. Yeah. The last time Inslee held a similar address was back in March 23rd when he first officially announced his pandemic lockdown strategy. Yeah. The stay home, stay healthy order. Inslee doesn't give me orders. Fuck you. Now, the governor's address comes amid the largest spike in coronavirus transmissions the state has seen since the pandemic began in spring. After halting the daily updates of coronavirus infections to observe Veterans Day Wednesday, the State Department of Health reported 3,345 new COVID infections over the past 2 days combined. So that's 1,672 infections out of 7.6 million fucking people. Fuck you. That's fucking baby bitch shit. Here's the facts. Our weekly average of new COVID cases has doubled just in the last few weeks. Hold on a second. So, let's just say if that's 2 days, we'll times that by 3. So we'll call it 10,000 a week. You mean 10,000 people sick? Not even sick, because a case doesn't even mean a person has enough viral load to be sick. It only means they have RNA fragments in their tissue, which could very well be from your antigens destroying the virus, as they're supposed to. And in most cases, inevitably are. Or they're fragments from old coronavirus RNA, and alpha and beta coronavirus are so similar to SARS, MERS, and this new one, it'd be impossible to tell apart unless you had a very specialized test, which they don't have. But hey, we're in as dangerous a position today as we were in March. Then why'd we give up all this? Why have we been doing all this jumping on one foot if we're just going to come right back to the same place every year, the same way as we would with any respiratory virus? Meaning, if we were to play this game with cold and flu, the same thing would happen. It would go down for those few months, then it would spike again at this time. So, you understand? We're in a period of what's called exponential growth. But we were in that before, remember? We were going to die back in March 23rd. Remember? But none of that ever came about. And it wasn't because of lockdowns, because they said at the time that the lockdowns were mostly ignored, recall. Jesus. We can't wait until our hospital halls are lined with gurneys waiting for rooms before we take decisive action. So what he's trying to say is there's no actual medical necessity for this at all as it sits. And he's inventing fear porn to justify his tyranny without actual events on the ground that justify his actions. Well, we can't wait until our hospital halls are lined with gurneys means that there's still hospital beds and that the hospitals are not overwhelmed. You see? Right? And in fact, that hospitals, are still operating at under capacity because they won't allow these people to do certain things. And so a lot of these deaths are going to be of the nature of people dying from cancer screenings they missed and, dialysis and many other things. Are those all COVID deaths too? Seems like it. Because there's no deaths extra recorded from anything. It's like almost every death seems to be tacked up to COVID for some reason. And every sickness is now COVID. Have you noticed that every single respiratory illness, colds, coughs, treated exactly as if they were COVID? Right? The governor's address was not all doom and gloom, though, and did leave room for hope. Hope for staying home would work to prevent further illness and deaths, and hope this would be a one-time affair. Hold on a second. Wasn't it supposed to be 15 days to flatten the curve back in March 23rd? Do you see, assholes? Wasn't it only supposed to last 30 days back on March 23rd when he kept extending it all the way out to no? I mean, what kind of bullshit's look? Here's some good news. We're only going to have to do this once. This is a unique Thanksgiving and holiday season. We're thankful that more therapeutics are on the way, and this is the imminent arrival of a vaccine. There's a lot more at our disposal to fight this virus than than there was when the pandemic began. We're optimistic that Thanksgiving 2021 will be the best ever. So they're telling you, you're going to be locked down for a fucking year. Right there. Just like I started out saying, remember? The governor's address echoed prior concerns from the Washington State Department of Health, who earlier issued the following guidance to reduce COVID transmissions during the holidays. Limit in-person gatherings as much as possible. That means reducing the number of times you gather, how many people attend, and how long you spend together. Gather outside if possible, or open windows and doors to maximize ventilation inside. Always wear a face mask covering when you're around people who don't live with you. This includes close friends and family. So hide your face from everyone that doesn't live with you. This is exactly how Arab women live. That's exactly how a burqa is used in an Arab country. Always wear a face covering when you're around people that don't live with you, particularly other men. And then, as with Arabs, that includes close friends and family. Just exactly the same. This is exactly. Basically, Washington State is Sharia compliant in this way. It may feel awkward to do this around people we know well and trust, but many people get COVID from someone who doesn't have symptoms yet. Meaning, people who aren't sick can make you sick because COVID makes you sick, even though COVID can't be proven to do shit because, COVID is like some kind of magical fucking thing, you think, eh? So, if you're keeping some physical distance, it's still a good idea to wear a face mask covering. Talking to your family and friends about alternative ways to celebrate the holidays, meaning, i.e., electronic online ways that they can monitor, censor, and have control over. Even, brainstorming ideas for virtual celebrations so you can still enjoy spending time together without putting each other at risk. You're not spending any time together in any virtual way. That's utterly insane. That's like a substitute for proper human interaction. Give me a break. Make a safety plan for in-person gatherings. Have a conversation with your family and friends about what you're going to do to reduce the risk of spreading COVID when you gather. Nothing. COVID's a con job. Fuck off. Stay home if you're sick or have been exposed. If you're feeling a little under the weather and aren't sure if you're getting sick, take the cautious approach and protect others by staying home. Keep up your good hygiene habits. Wash or sanitize your hands often and avoid touching your face because, yes, if I touch my face, I'm going to die. Can you imagine the nonsense? The governor and first lady ended their address Thursday by thanking frontline workers and all Washingtonians for the work they have done and the hardships they have endured toughing out the pandemic. Why doesn't he just give up his paycheck and put his money where his mouth's at? Because isn't it amazing that all these parasites in Olympia are all essential, but you, locked down just on whim. Your life, your economics, everything about you doesn't matter. As he can save one old person in a home, all the rest of you need to be locked down. No, meanwhile, Angus Lee believes documents show Governor Jay Inslee ordered the Washington State Patrol to give the interstate bridge to BLM protesters. Yeah. A governor, criminal defense, and civil rights attorney who recently filed a lawsuit against the Washington State Patrol for what he believes was the facilitation of the June 19th Black Lives Matter protest that shut down Interstate 5 has released emails that he says show WSP officers were acting on the orders of Governor Jay Inslee. Well, so Jay is known to allow BLM and Antifa to shut down the freeway. We'll use that as a euphemism for the rest. But y'all better lock down. Because if you don't, you know what I'm saying? Because if you don't. So guys, what can I say, let me give you a little list of the things that you're supposed to be sort of, scared of, right? Okay? One second. Takes me a little bit here. I got kind of... So, a preliminary announcement from the state is below. In order to slow the spread of increasing rapid COVID cases in our state, and ensure the hospital and medical systems are not overwhelmed, we are taking the very difficult but necessary steps to protect public health. We recognize that this will cause financial hardship for many businesses. Notice it doesn't say anything about actual people. And the governor and staff are exploring the ways to mitigate the impacts. You mean they're going to find ways to give money to their donor class while they fuck small businesses off and allow them to be destroyed? These rules are effective Monday 16th at midnight, except for as when noted. Yeah. Indoor social gatherings with people from outside your household are prohibited. Outdoor social gatherings should be limited to 5 people from outside your household. Restaurants and bars are closed for indoor services. Outdoor dining and to-go service is permitted, though. Outdoor dining must follow the outdoor dining restriction. Table size limited to 5 for outdoor dining. Yeah. These restaurant restrictions go into full effect at 5. Now, the reason why the 5 people restriction is limited to 5, because it takes the governor, the Speaker of the House, the Majority Leader of the House, or the Minority Leader of the House, the President Pro Tempore of the Senate, and I think the Lieutenant Governor to sign off on his little edicts. So 5 of them have to meet. Thus 5 of them are allowed to meet. Imagine witches, boil, toil, royal. Fitness facilities and gyms are closed. Outdoor classes may still occur, but are limited by the outdoor gathering restrictions above. In other words, you can only have 5 people. Drop-off daycare is closed. Bowling centers are closed. Miscellaneous avenues, basically anything else in which you can have a person, is limited to 25% of capacity. Movie theaters are closed. Drive-in movie theaters are still permitted, but must follow the current drive-in movie theater guidance. Museums are closed. Zoos, aquariums closed. Real estate open houses prohibited. Wedding and funeral receptions are prohibited. That's right, you can't mourn your dead. We want to honor the living, fuck the dead, eh? Ceremonies are limited to no more than 30 people. Let's see. In-store retail limited to 25% occupancy and must close any common, congregated, non-food related seated areas. Food court indoor seating is closed. Religious services limited to 25% indoor capacity, no more than 200 people, whichever is fewer. No choir, band, or ensemble shall perform during the service. Not allowed to sing. Soloists are permitted to perform. Facial coverings must be worn at all time by congregation members, and no congressional singing is allowed. Professional services are required to mandate that employees work from home when possible and to close offices to the public. If they remain open, occupancy is restricted to 50%. Personal services are limited to 25% of maximum occupancy. Long-term care facility, outdoor visits only, because again, look outside at this fucking horrible weather. Having grandma stand out in the rain will help her health. Exceptions can be made for essential support person and end of care. Oh, so you can see people while they're dying, but the rest? Nah. Youth and adult sporting activities limited to outdoor only for intra-team practices, mask required for athletes. A household is defined as the individuals residing in the same domicile. Yeah. So, 250 days after the first of these restrictions, we have more restrictions. And, guys, like I say, I'm going to read off what these restrictions are based off. I think it's page 19 of this one. Yeah. Here's your symptoms. Cough, fever or chills. Cough, shortness of breath, difficulty breathing, fatigue, muscle or body aches, headache, new loss of taste or smell, sore throat, congestion or runny nose, vomiting or diarrhea. And now, look for emergency warning signs for COVID. Are you ready? Now, trouble breathing, persistent pain or pressure in the chest, heart attack, new confusion, inability to wake up or stay awake, or bluish lips or face. So, some random heroin addict ODing has a emergency warning signs of COVID. And in fact, anybody that had these emergency warning signs ever, you wouldn't even think of were COVID. You just think they were dying, period. So basically, these symptoms are designed to make you think that everyone else is there to destroy you, make you sick, You understand what I'm trying to say, guys? Now, I don't like it. You don't like it. None of us like it. But there it is, right? It's not good, guys. It ain't good. So, with that, folks, I'm going to let you go. All I can really say long term is this. These fucking tyrants aren't just going to let us go. These democratic tyrants mean to impose this, world reset, you know what I mean? Economic reset on us, which that's from the Economic Forum in Davos. This isn't some conspiracy theory. It's the elite saying they want a world reset where they can create a two-tiered society where they can travel around like the gods of Elysium and you remain stuck in place like Morlocks. That's exactly how they want it. With that, folks, y'all have a nice day.